Yeah. Give me all of them. Look.
Yes.
See that? Trump was right about everything. It just came in. Somebody sent, I said, this was sent in by a fan. I said, I think we should make some of them, right? But we were, pretty much. You want one?
I'll pass.
Are you allowed to take one? Because he'll consider it. I know him well. He's sort of a stiff.
I said you were right.
Brian, you're not a stiff. He's sort of a stiff guy. You know? He'll take other things, but not a free hand.
Always say yes to the president. Always say yes to the president.
Would anybody like one?
I mean, this would be unbelievable if it weren't completely believable in the place we are currently in this country. You would have thought this was the most cheesily written sketch on Saturday Night Live by a writer that was fired after a minute 8 years ago. But not anymore. This is like, okay, of course, the president is throwing out hats saying everything he does is right.
He's sort of a stiff.
I said you were right.
Brian, you're not a stiff. He's sort of a stiff guy. You know? He'll take other things, but not a free hand.
Always say yes to the president.
Why does everything this man does feel so gimmicky and cheap? It's because everything he does is beyond gimmicky and cheap. It's sad, weird, strange, odd, pathetic, bringing a new low of shame to the prestige we at least tried to create the illusion of having in our country when we didn't actually have it. And so at least in that respect, the guy keeps it real in the fact that he doesn't hide how much of a schlocky weirdo he is. Let's be honest, the Trump brand has always had that kind of bargain bin, off-brand Kirkland energy. You know what I mean? Although tossing out fan personalized merch to the press is next level crossing of a line even for him. But these lines are really written in pencil these days. And for the guy who eagerly snatched up the hat,
I know him well. He's sort of a stiff.
I said you were right.
Brian, you're not a stiff. He's sort of a stiff guy. You know?
it's Brian Glenn, the Real America Voice chief White House correspondent. And fun fact, of course, he is Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, thank you so much for joining me today. And I'm sure I will see you a little bit later.
Okay, I'll see you later.
Journalistic integrity over there at Real America's Voice? No thank you. Real America's Voice is a missed electric bill away from being a podcast, so they'll take all the free hats they can get. This also feels like the right time to say podcasts are actually quite wonderful, and I have my own called Last Week on Earth with Ben Gleib, and I do hope that you subscribe to it where I summarize the world every week when I get around to doing it and I aren't crying too hard and or am not crying too hard, if I wanted to say that correctly. But the real chef's kiss of this whole cringy, carnival-barking spectacle in the Oval Office, no less, was RFK Jr.'s face. Just look at him.
Trump was right about everything. It just came in. Somebody sent, I said.
His family literally built the prestige that made that office the envy of the world. Of course, JFK was having sex with people other than his wife in the White House pool, but not in the Oval Office. That was for Clinton to, desecrate. At least the stuff wasn't on camera. As far as we know. It is still the most powerful desk in the modern world and rapidly declining. The descendant of that great family is stuck watching a failed steak salesman chuck out baseball caps to the press like he's back in Puerto Rico, tossing around rolls of paper towels instead of helping the people. This is what happens when you hitch your wagon to the Trump MAGA circus. You get a White House that feels less like the seat of global power and more like a bankrupt casino gift shop. Or maybe even more aptly, those guys in Vegas standing outside of the casinos, slapping their porn flyers trying to get you to walk into their strip clubs or call their escorts for a good time. Making sex great again. Speaking of which, Trump found yet another way to put his name on something. Take a look at this.
We're going to be selling a gold card. You have a green card. This is a gold card. We're going to be putting a price on that card of about $5 million, and that's going to give you green card privileges plus. It's going to be a route to citizenship, and wealthy people will be coming into our country by buying this card. They'll be wealthy, and they'll be successful, and they'll be spending a lot of money and paying a lot of taxes and employing a lot of people. And we think it's going to be extremely successful.
The Trump Gold Card, a new program aimed at wealthy foreigners willing to pay millions of dollars for U.S. residency. Currently, green cards are most commonly issued to foreigners who marry U.S. citizens or obtain sponsorship through an employer. The process typically takes around 3 years. So I don't mind the concept of this program instead of just marrying somebody to get into the country, which, love is important, but as a country, it's important to also make money. So we don't mind the idea of actually having to inject into the economy. And those who are going to go nuts about this, there is the EB-5 program we've had, which is essentially the same thing. It's just not called the Trump Gold Card, but it is a program where somebody could spend $1 million investing directly in American businesses, either themselves to create at least 10 or more jobs, or just putting into a regional center the investment, and then they help create the jobs with it to get for them and their spouse and any unmarried children residency in this country as a pathway to citizenship. So it's the same thing, except instead of directly creating jobs, Trump's upping it from 1 million to 5 million, because only the ultra wealthy have value in his eyes, and the money just goes to the government. Instead of creating jobs, it'll just be probably so Trump can go to Super Bowl again. This program, is at least not the worst, except for the fact that being as boldly obvious, instead of making it about creating jobs and making it with Trump's name on it and calling it a gold card, you're also kind of sending the message that America's for sale, that you can just come here if you're rich enough and you want to buy another item of merch, essentially, another scam product basically created by the president. But other than that, at least it'll bring money into the country. So, there's that. Elon Musk, we maybe give more of it to him as grants to his already successful companies that he does not need, while he fires government employees rampantly without even checking or vetting, and firing people who are in charge of getting rid of Ebola in the world, which just happened, and they had to rehire them, or again, firing the nuclear watchdog people in our country that are making sure our nukes are safe, and then not being able to find them again because they got rid of their contact info because they canceled their government emails and they didn't have their other email addresses, and then scrambling to keep our nukes safe. But other than that, it's going pretty well. Of course, Team Trump is cranking up the gatekeeping, tightening restrictions on legal immigration, even as well as illegal immigration, of course, with that one they should do, but you can do it with humanity. Quick reminder. And even trying to scrap birthright citizenship, because being born in America no longer means you're American, even though it's in the Constitution they claim to care about. If you're not rich, your existence is very negotiable at this current time. The more money you got, the more American you is. I'm Ben Gleib for Rebel HQ. You can follow me on Instagram at Ben Gleib. Only if you got lots of money. If not, go. I'm kidding. All are welcome.